Actually, I had been looking around for a little while and hadn't found exactly what I was looking for. And then my dad sent me an article that he had read in Sports Illustrated that was about Byron Jones, who is an NFL player who broke the world record in the broad jump at the NFL Combine. And that article specifically was on the kind of training he had done leading up to the Combine with EXOS. And my dad sent me the article because he thought the kind of training that he had done would be relevant to me and that I could apply it to my training. In that article, Stefan was interviewed and EXOS is referenced, and so I was like, I'm gonna look into this place. I looked it up, and because Stefan was the one in the article, he's the one I reached out to and contacted. And that was just like a complete blessing because he's an amazing coach.
First of all, it was a bit of a shock to her that I'm actually born and raised in Calgary, Alberta. Skeleton is a sport that we're good at, and where there was the '88 Calgary Olympics, which means we have the track in Calgary and some really good training facilities. So I think one of the most pleasant things for Katie in that initial conversation was that she was looking for someone who could improve speed and power, but she didn't think there was any chance that coming from a football background in Gulf Breeze, Florida in the southeastern United States, the coach would have any clue what skeleton was.
Stefan's training philosophies, I mean, it's very progressive. It's very well read and very well on the cutting edge of where the research is, and it's a leading program in where the field is at. And sometimes other people take a lot longer to catch up.
If you ask what it's like to work with Katie, you know, a typical day working with Katie, there's really two sides to it, right? There's the when she's with me in person versus when she's in the Virgin Islands at home, and those are two very different things. Everything I'm doing with her while she's in person, a typical day there, is really also laying the groundwork for the relationship we have while she is on the road or back home in Virgin Islands.
Usually get here about 7 in the morning. I eat breakfast first and then I have some time to digest before I start training. I have a readiness evaluation that I fill out for my coach so that he can see before we start training how my body's feeling that day, how much I slept that night. And then I will start doing some soft tissue and mobility stuff on my own before him and I start working. If I need to see the physical therapist, we'll usually try and meet just before I start training so he can see what's going on.
What asymmetries they see or what movement dysfunction they see to help drive the programming that I put together. If you look at 3 things we want to achieve every day, it is position, pattern, and power. I want to watch the positions that I'm asking her to make. So I need to, again, look at joint angles, force vectors. Do I look at from a hip dominant movement? Am I only looking at traditionally vertical force, or am I considering a horizontal force? So we'll load with different ways, put her in different positions, and put her into different shapes to get those joint angles and those force vectors that I'm looking for. Patterns. I'm also, as a coach, part of what I need, like coaching eye, is I need to make sure that she's executing with an appropriate strategy. I'm making sure that she isn't compensating and looking at something that is inappropriate or could potentially lead to an injurious situation. And then after that position and pattern, now it's power, which I don't just mean in a classic sense of power of being explosive. I mean the strength quality. What is the strength quality focus for the day? Is it strength? Is it speed strength? Is it power endurance? We really have a clear focused strength quality goal for what we're doing. I want her working within all 3 planes of motion and understanding how to achieve proper positions, the patterns that she wants to utilize for movement, and then ultimately apply power or strength quality. So if you talk about now, what am I thinking about on a movement session, putting the track, ironically, it's the same 3 things: position, pattern, power. Position, what shapes are we looking to make? What angles are we asking her to create? Is she doing that? Pattern, what is her chosen pattern? What's her movement signature? And paying attention to that, because as you look at it, when I get to know how she moves, by seeing her change a pattern, that tells me something, right? It's this idea that everything is a screen. Yes, we do screens before she comes in, but I 100% watching her can tell if something is different on a day. So I'm looking at the pattern that she utilizes in movement, and then finally the power, strength, quality to match up in the phase of training to what I'm doing in the weight room. So am I doing more resisted work? Do we have a prowler out there? Is she doing resisted runs and looking at more of a strength quality that is a little slower but more resisted? Or are we looking at free methods where we're looking at pure speed, again, looking at her positions, her patterns, and her subsequent strength quality based on the phase of training? That's what I want to achieve every day in the gym. Typically, a regen day, we're utilizing some of the things in this facility like a cold plunge, like Normatec, soft tissue work. But there's also a lot to be said for, again, getting out of that monotony and sometimes just changing up the environment. So we made her regen day a hike, but more than anything, it was actually for her psychological stress load and just providing her with a change in scenery and getting up to the top of a mountain in Phoenix and giving a look around. That was a really enjoyable morning, right? And we really saw what was neat is we saw mentally in her mood to training, we really saw this elevated state the next day and had one of the best training days that Thursday. The day after that hike was the day she PR'd on the track for us. Could be coincidence, but I really believe she was not just physically ready for that day, but mentally she came in ready for that day to run fast.
I mean, I could talk more about the specific training, but I also don't want my competitors to see this stuff. Yeah, that's a wrap.
Perfect.
My name is Tannenbaum. I'm from the Virgin Islands and I do the winter sport of skeleton.